An unexploded bomb in a Nevada casino.
I said to myself, gosh, that's the biggest bomb I've ever seen in my whole life.
An eccentric scientist makes a revolutionary breakthrough.
He was a Picasso of the Petri dish.
And a mythical beast on the loose in Wisconsin.
It seemed like half the town had a run-in with this mysterious creature.
These are the mysteries at the museum. "25 miles east of Lake Tahoe is Nevada's oldest town, Genoa. Settled in 1851 as a trading post, it's home to the state's oldest saloon, which still serves customers today. And celebrating the region's frontier roots is the Genoa Courthouse Museum. The displays include a hand-woven Native American basket made by members of the Washoe tribe, a pair of wooden skis from the 1800s, and cells salvaged from the town's first jail. But one item here looks like it belongs not in a museum, but in a junkyard.
The object is 3 inches in length, 2 inches wide, and made of steel. It would definitely fit in your hand. It's been stretched. It's been twisted, like it's been severely damaged.
As retired FBI agent Bill Jarnke knows firsthand, this malformed artifact was at the center of an incendiary story of mayhem and revenge that shook the nation.
This relic was a very important piece of an explosive investigation.
August 26, 1980, State Line, Nevada. It's 6:30 in the morning at the Harvey's Resort and Casino. Even at this early hour, the popular gambling destination is bustling with people hoping for their chance to strike it rich. But then, a floor supervisor walks into a back office and notices something unusual. It's a large steel box. Standing 3 feet high and 2 feet wide, the strange metal structure also has a smaller box welded to its top. And on the floor, next to the box, is a letter with a frightening message.
It said the steel box was the very powerful bomb.
And that's not all. The letter bears a dire warning. The bomb is set to explode in 24 hours. Any attempt to move or disable the device will trigger an explosion. According to the note, the only way to ensure the bomb doesn't go off is to pay a ransom of $3 million. The floor supervisor immediately notifies the authorities. FBI agents, led by Bill Jarnke, arrive on the scene within minutes.
I looked at that bomb and I said to myself, gosh, that's the biggest bomb I've ever seen in my whole life.
the entire hotel and casino is evacuated. As the press descends upon the scene, swarms of guests pour into the streets.
We had been successful at establishing a perimeter around that casino.
On the 11th floor, Junkie starts by having his team X-ray the bomb. Their scans reveal that the device is split between the two boxes. The small box on top contains circuitry, a complex triggering device, and a timer. And the large bottom box contains a massive amount of explosives.
No one had ever seen a bomb like this. We guessed that this device weighed probably around 1,500 pounds. So there was no safe way to move it.
For hours, Junkie and his team study the device in hopes of finding a way to disarm it. But their efforts are in vain. With the clock ticking down, the agents consider ordering the hotel to pay the ransom, but realize there's no guarantee the bomber would keep up his end of the deal.
If we moved it, it would go off. If we tried to open up the box in any fashion, the bomb would detonate.
Agent Bill Junkie and his team decide the only way to disarm the bomb is to somehow separate the device's complex circuitry from its explosives. They attach a small charge to the seam between the two boxes. If their plan works, a targeted explosion will separate the bomb's components, disabling it immediately.
We hoped that it would be, in essence, separating the brains of the bomb from the explosive.
But if it doesn't work, the entire building could be destroyed.
Nobody was really sure how this would pan out. If this plan didn't work, Harvey's would never be the same.
At 3:46 p.m. the next day, the signal is given. The bomb squad triggers the detonator. But instead of a small blast, there is a tremendous explosion. A massive hole is blown in the building and debris flies hundreds of feet.
All the material from within the building came out and then just covered the adjacent parking lot and building structures.
When the dust settles, it becomes clear that 5 of the casino's 11 stories are destroyed. But fortunately, no one is harmed.
There was nobody hurt, not so much as a scratch. And that's what we wanted. We were all very happy that this bomb was no longer a danger.
But one question remains. Who planted the bomb in the first place? Several days later, FBI agents get a tip that eventually leads them to the bomber. And on August 15th, 1981, agents arrest John Burgess, a construction worker from California with extensive military training.
John Burgess was a very intelligent individual. He had a basic understanding of electricity, maybe more than the average person. He knew where to buy componentry. He fit our criminal mold just perfect.
Burgess, it seems, had racked up huge gambling debts and owed more than $15,000 to the casino. So he stole 18 cases of dynamite from a job site and built the bomb in hopes of getting enough money to pay back his debt. Then, in the wee hours of the morning, Burgess and two friends disguised the bomb as a piece of office equipment and wheeled it through the front door of the casino. Burgess is eventually convicted of extortion and receives a lifetime prison sentence.
In the end, the Bureau got its man.
One year after the bombing, the Harvey's Resort and Casino reopens for business. Today, these fragments from Burgess's bomb are on display at the Genoa Courthouse Museum. They recall the explosive plot that nearly took down the house. Portland, Maine, was settled in the 1600s as a fishing village. It's still world famous for one thing: lobster. The fishermen of this small city haul in more than 10 million pounds of the crustacean every year. But in the center of town is an institution dedicated to a very different sort of animal: the International Cryptozoology Museum. The collection includes a replica of a mermaid that once toured with P.T. Barnum's circus, a taxidermy of the famous jackalope, and a towering sculpture of the infamous Bigfoot. But among these familiar figures is a lesser-known beast.
It's about 27 inches high, 8 inches deep, and 15 inches wide. It's made of hair, fiber, burlap, wood, and resin. It's brown, black, and has really creepy eyes and pointy ears. It looks like something from a nightmare. It's expertly crafted, but absolutely terrifying to look at.
This sculpture recalls a monstrous creature that some say terrorized a tiny community.
This object makes us wonder what must lurk in nature's shadows.
It's a dark night in October 1991 in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. 18-year-old Doris Gibson has just witnessed something extraordinary. According to the teenager, she was driving down desolate Bray Road on her way home, when out of nowhere, she felt a huge bump, as if her front tire had run over something. Immediately, she pulled over.
Doris gets out of her car. She wants to know what she hit.
According to Doris, she came face to face with a horrifying sight.
She saw the creepiest looking beast she could have ever imagined. It seemed to have the face or muzzle of a coyote or dog. It had yellow eyes, big pointy ears. It was somewhere between 5 and 7 feet tall. And the weirdest thing of all, it stood on its 2 hind legs.
Doris claims that when she got back in her car, before she could get away, the creature lunged at the vehicle.
Doris must have been terrified. She must have thought she might not get out of this alive. She floored the gas and felt the beast slip off of her wet trunk.
Doris concludes that she's had a brush with a legendary monster known as the Beast of Bray Road. For decades, residents have been reporting sightings of this sinister creature.
One witness described seeing this beast eating roadkill. 2 little girls saw what they thought was a dog until it stood on its hind legs. It seemed like half the town had a run-in with this mysterious creature.
Some believe that the beast is a mythical species from European folklore.
According to the locals, the Beast of Bray Road was a werewolf.
As legend has it, werewolves are humans that shapeshift into wolves under a full moon. According to some locals, there's ample evidence that the beast is a werewolf. They point to its supposed long, shaggy hair, yellow eyes, and the fact that most of the attacks happened under a full moon.
You can see why people looked at these stories and thought, this is a werewolf.
So, what's the truth behind the Beast of Bray Road?
It's the 1990s. A strange monster is on the loose in Wisconsin. Locals have dubbed the animal the Beast of Bray Road. So, is there any truth behind these terrifying sightings?
Many locals dismiss the werewolf theory as superstitious folklore. They suspect the attacks are the work of a group of pranksters intent on scaring their fellow townspeople. But it seems unlikely that anyone could keep a joke like this running for so long.
The problem, there's just so many sightings. And Doris hit this beast. It doesn't really add up to some local pranksters.
Others claim that the beast is nothing more than a bear.
It made sense that people would gravitate towards this explanation. Bears can have pointy ears, they're enormous, and they can stand up on their hind legs.
But skeptics point out that bears don't have the bright yellow eyes that many witnesses reported seeing. Despite numerous investigations, the creature, whether bear, werewolf, or some other monster, remains elusive. And sightings of this mysterious beast continue to this very day.
Because the beast was never caught, we still don't know for sure its identity. The beasts of Bray Road, it might still be out there.
Meanwhile, the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine, displays this sculpture. It's based on reported sightings of the legendary beast that may be all too real. At 843 acres, Central Park is the largest green space in Manhattan. Every day, tens of thousands of New Yorkers use this urban oasis to stay fit. And on the park's east side is an institution dedicated to health, the New York Academy of Medicine. The collection includes rare medical books from the 16th century, sculptures of famous physicians, and even one of George Washington's teeth. But among these historical relics is a far more modern specimen.
It has a metal frame which measures about 6 inches square. Mounted inside is an optical glass about 2 inches across. Under the glass is a flat amoeba-shaped design. It is multicolored with fuzzy edges. It has kind of a Rorschach-type quality to it that makes one wonder exactly what they're looking at.
This artifact represents an accidental discovery that's affected the life of every man, woman, and child on the planet.
This is a story about an eccentric scientist who came up with one of the most astonishing, meaningful, and revolutionary advances in the history of medical science.
It's the 1920s in London. Alexander Fleming is a brilliant doctor and biologist at the prestigious St. Mary's Hospital. He's working to find a substance that will kill deadly bacteria and save human lives.
He's considered accomplished. He's considered a very good researcher. He had always had an interest in curing infections. He wanted to save lives. And if that meant rewriting the rules of research and science, that's what he was willing to do.
But in his spare time, the eccentric Scottish scientist indulges in a very unusual hobby. He uses bacteria to create art.
Fleming was the first germ artist. In place of pastels, pigments, oils, he used bacteria to create vivid pictures.
Fleming uses a petri dish as his canvas and covers it with different types of bacteria. When he places the dish in an incubator, the germs grow into brightly colored and intricate designs.
He was a Michelangelo of the microbe, a Picasso of the Petri dish.
Fleming's germ-based palette includes red, black, and yellow bacteria. But that's it. Due to his limited understanding of bacteria, he's unable to expand this range of hues.
He wanted to bring new color to his works of art and in the process revolutionized medicine.
So, in a quest to find more colors, he sets up a simple experiment. Rather than place his petri dishes in an incubator, he decides to leave them out at room temperature.
Fleming feels, honestly, what's the worst that can happen?
Fleming allows the cultures to grow for 2 weeks. And when he checks on them, he notices a very strange result. One of the petri dishes has mold growing on top of the bacteria colony.
Most scientists would have thrown that petri dish out, discarding it like garbage, but not Alexander Fleming.
What he observes next will change medicine forever.
Fleming was about to open the door to a medical revolution.
It's 1928 in London, England. Eccentric British scientist Alexander Fleming has a peculiar obsession. He uses different colored strains of bacteria to create paintings in petri dishes. In a quest to discover more colors, he leaves the petri dish out for 2 weeks. When he returns to it, he makes a surprising discovery.
Fleming examines the petri dish and notices a peculiar detail.
The area around the mold was completely clear, indicating that the bacteria around it was dying.
Fleming concludes that this mold has killed the bacteria on the dish.
Fleming had inadvertently discovered a compound that would kill bacteria.
And this leads Fleming to a stunning realization. Doctors at the time were almost powerless in the fight against bacterial diseases.
Bacterial infections were basically a death sentence for patients in Alexander Fleming's day.
Perhaps Fleming's bacteria-killing mold could be the answer. After further research, Fleming isolates the bacteria-killing compound in the mold and publishes his findings in the British Journal of Experimental Pathology. He names his discovery after the strand of mold which created it, penicillin.
Once penicillin came into mass production, the world would never be the same. No longer would people face death by some simple infection.
In 1945, Alexander Fleming is awarded the Nobel Prize for his contribution to the field of medicine. Today, this medallion, created by Fleming himself, houses a sample of penicillin. It recalls an artful scientist and an accidental discovery that changed medicine forever. With over 3,600 acres of mountains, forests, and lakes, Novato, California is a nature lover's paradise. But in the city center, is an institution that's out of this world. The Space Station Museum. On display is a scale model of the Apollo 11 lunar lander. A Russian cosmonaut suit worn aboard the International Space Station, and a lunar roving vehicle, better known as a moon buggy. But among these iconic displays is a basic tool of the astronaut trade.
It is about 10 inches in length, 3.5 inches in diameter. It is gray and black with 2 wires emerging from the side. And a small flexible protrusion sticks out at the top.
This object played a starring role in a harrowing drama that played out 200 miles above the surface of the Earth.
This artifact was used in one of the worst calamities in space exploration.
It's 1997. In a spirit of international cooperation, the United States and Russia are working together on the largest space station in history. It's called Mir, Russian for peace.
When the United States and the Russians came together as allies in space, they built the ultimate space lab for its era.
On board is a 3-man crew. Russian cosmonauts Vasily Sablev and Alexander Lazukin, and an American astronaut named Michael Foale. Their mission is to study the long-term effects of living in space. For the first several weeks, everything runs smoothly. But then, on June 25th, something happens that will bring the spacemen to the brink of doom. Using this joystick, now on display at the Space Station Museum, the crew is attempting to guide an unmanned, remote-controlled supply vessel to the Mir. When suddenly, the docking system malfunctions. Sending the cargo vessel crashing into the space station.
The collision shook the whole station. This was a big kaboom.
The force of the impact knocks Mir out of orbit and punctures a hole in the fuselage. Within seconds, the station starts to decompress.
Terror must have been on their faces when they realized what happened. This is the worst nightmare possible.
The astronauts scramble to repair the damage. They're able to seal off the leak. But worse is to come. In the chaos, a cable connecting the navigation computer to the power supply is severed. Without their flight computer, the crew has no way of calculating the navigational coordinates that Mission Control needs to bring the craft back on course. If they don't fix this problem soon, they'll burn up in the Earth's atmosphere.
These were dire conditions. They're taught that computers are needed to survive in space. They cannot do it on their own. The odds were against them, but their training taught them to say, how do we save this station?
It's 1997. The crew of the Mir space station is facing a deadly crisis. A collision with a cargo container has knocked out their main power supply and crippled their navigation system, leaving the space station spinning out of control.
As the space station continues its erratic course, crew member Michael Foale suddenly recalls an old sailor's trick he learned during training. Pressing his thumb against the window, he uses a star as a point of reference, counting the time it takes for the star to reappear. From this, he's able to calculate the speed at which the station is spinning. Foale radios his calculations back to Mission Control. Using this information, the scientists on the ground tell the flight crew exactly how much and when to fire their thrusters to bring the craft back on course.
They all knew that this was the last shot. There's no room for error. This was not a video game. A game over in space means you're dead.
Moments later, everything goes quiet.
The space station stopped shaking, and they looked around and realized they were alive.
Foale's trick has worked.
Mike Foale saved their lives.
The harrowing incident makes international headlines. Over time, the crew is able to repair the station, and Mir remains in orbit for 4 more years. Today, the joystick used during the outer space collision is on display at the Space Station Museum. It's a reminder of a life and death drama that once played out at the edge of space. The English town of Hastings is known for its medieval ruins, historic old town, and scenic harbor. But this charming community is also home to an institution that chronicles society's darker underbelly, the True Crime Museum. This unusual museum is located in 3,000 square feet of seafront caves and contains the largest collection of crime memorabilia in the United Kingdom. It displays such morbid curiosities as an array of bottles filled with strychnine and artwork created by convicted murderers. But one item in the collection seems to be connected to entertainment rather than crime.
It's 10 inches in diameter. It has a small round hole in the middle. It's made from black, thin shellac. It's covered in small scratches by years of use. It has a purple label surrounded by grooves.
In fact, this innocuous-looking vinyl record recalls an unsolved murder that baffled the people of England for decades.
The voice on this record may hold the key to unravelling one of the most compelling murder mysteries of wartime Britain.
It's April 19th, 1943 in Worcestershire, England. A group of local boys are playing in the forest when they make a grisly discovery inside the hollow of an elm tree.
The boys found almost a complete set of skeletal remains of an adult human being.
The skeleton is dressed in tattered clothing.
The boys must have been petrified out of their minds.
Police are summoned to the scene. They remove the skeleton from the tree and take it to a local pathologist.
Examinations revealed that the victim was a woman about 35 years old and that she had died 18 months previously, in the autumn or early winter of 1941.
At first, the bones show no obvious cause of death. Then the pathologist finds a disturbing clue. He discovers a piece of taffeta wedged in the woman's throat.
He had no alternative but to conclude that she had been murdered.
The police comb through unsolved missing persons cases around England, but fail to find a match. So investigators hire a forensic artist to create a sketch of what she may have looked like before she was murdered. But even when they circulate the image to the press, still no one comes forward to identify the victim.
And yet still nothing, no identifications, no local person saying, oh yes, I know that woman. At this point, the investigation has reached an absolute dead end.
For decades, it remains unsolved, and it becomes one of England's biggest mysteries. Then, 70 years later, an incredible discovery sheds new light on the story.
A newspaper report may hold the key to unravelling one of England's most mysterious murders.
Who was this woman? And what happened to her?
It's 2013 in England. For decades, police have been trying to solve the mysterious cold case of a young woman found dead inside the trunk of a hollow tree. So, who is this Jane Doe? And what happened to her?
In 2013, a British newspaper reporter named Alison Vale is researching newly declassified British intelligence files from World War II when she makes an unexpected discovery. During the war, the English region of Worcestershire, where the Jane Doe body was found, was home to a Nazi spy ring.
The area had some very serious Nazi targets contained within it. It had a number of munitions factories and also a motor works.
In late 1941, British intelligence received a tip that a female Nazi agent was due to parachute into the area to join the spy ring. but she never showed up. Many assumed the mission was aborted and she never left Germany. But was this really the case? Combing through the records, Vail discovers that the female spy was thought to be a popular German cabaret singer named Clara Bauerlei.
She had been associated with some very senior Nazi officials and was recruited as a secret agent.
In the early 1940s, Bauerlei mysteriously disappeared from public life and was never heard from again.
Claire's last known recordings and stage performances date to 1941.
This was around the same time that a woman's remains were found in the elm tree in Worcestershire. Vail draws a stunning conclusion. Clara Bauerlei and the victim found in the elm tree may be one and the same. Vail's theory suggests that in 1941, Bauerlei parachuted into England to join the spy ring. But for some unknown reason, she ran afoul of the secret group of Nazi spies, who then killed her and dumped her body in the tree. Although it sounds outlandish, in the absence of any other definitive theories, many believe Vail's scenario to be true.
It's possible that the world will never know who this woman was, but to my mind it remains one of England's most fascinating and captivating mysteries.
Today, this gramophone recording made by Clara Bauerlei is on display at the True Crime Museum in Hastings. It recalls the mysterious tale of a Jane Doe, a Nazi spy, and a cabaret singer, who may indeed all have been the same person. Annapolis, Maryland is perhaps best known as the home of the U.S. Naval Academy, founded in 1845. And visitors can explore the history of this prestigious institution at the U.S. Naval Academy Museum. The collection includes a barnacle-encrusted light bulb recovered from a sunken 19th century battleship. The "Don't Give Up the Ship" flag that rallied troops during the War of 1812. And the pen Admiral Chester Nimitz used to sign the treaty that officially ended World War II. But one artifact here symbolizes one of the most legendary captains in naval history.
The artifact is just about 3 feet long and almost a foot wide. It's made of wood. There are guns protruding from the sides, and it's immaculately well crafted.
This is a model of the warship, the Bonhomme Richard. And it recalls a cunning seaman who saved the American Revolution.
Sometimes a combination of trickery, bravery, and deception wins the day.
It's 1779. The Revolutionary War is in its 4th year. and the Americans are not faring well, particularly against the Royal Navy.
The British had the finest navy on the seas. The American Navy was young, untried, and had very few ships.
But one man thinks he can turn the tide in favor of the upstart Americans. Lieutenant John Paul Jones.
John Paul Jones was talented and capable and brave. In real life, he seemed like he was polite and quiet, but once he boarded the deck of the ship, he completely changed into what someone described as the Patton of the American Revolution.
At the helm of the Bonhomme Richard, a model of which is on display at the U.S. Naval Academy Museum, Jones takes the British head-on and repeatedly strikes off the coast of England. Under his command, the nascent American Navy scores a series of victories.
John Paul Jones was America's newest, greatest naval war hero.
As his reputation grows, Jones and the Bonhomme Richard become the top targets of the Royal Navy, and the commander's notoriety is about to catch up with him. On September 23rd, Jones launches his most aggressive attack yet. He engages the most powerful ship in the British fleet, the Serapis.
The Serapis was the newest, latest, and greatest British warship. It was big, it was fast, it was loaded with guns.
During the fray, the Bonhomme Richard is critically damaged. But Jones and his crew are not deterred. They board the Serapis, subdue its sailors, and commandeer the vessel. After the battle, the Bonhomme Richard sinks beneath the waves. Jones sails the captured Serapis to a neutral Dutch port.
Jones pulled in expecting that he could unload there, rest, refuel, refortify, and continue on.
But Jones finds it's no safe haven. The British soon blockade the harbor, leaving him no way out. And they ask the Dutch to hand over the American commander.
The British want to put him on trial. They want to hang him. They want him dead.
But the Dutch steadfastly refuse. They will not allow any sort of military skirmish or diplomatic conflict in their waters.
The Dutch are trying to maintain neutrality during the war between Britain and her colonies. So the British came up with a better plan.
Not to be thwarted, the British demand that Jones be arrested for an obscure crime, not flying a proper flag. Under maritime law, all seafaring vessels must fly their nation's official flag. But since America has not yet achieved independence, colonial ships fly a variety of banners. And after the flag on the Bonhomme Richard went down with the ship, it seems that Jones ordered a new standard to be created for the Serapis. It's the one that was designed by his friend, American diplomat and inventor, Benjamin Franklin.
The flag had a series of blue, white, and red stripes with 13 stars.
It's a striking design, but it's not recognized by other countries. And that's bad news for John Paul Jones.
If you were sailing at that time in a ship with a flag that wasn't recognized by authorities, your flag would be taken and you would be tried as a pirate.
To Jones's dismay, the British seem to have outwitted him, all thanks to a legal technicality.
This could be the end of America's greatest naval commander.
So how will Jones get out alive?
It's 1779. American war hero John Paul Jones is trapped by a naval blockade in a neutral Dutch port. The British want the Dutch to arrest Jones for breaking an obscure maritime law, sailing under an unrecognized flag. So will Jones be able to leave the British in his wake?
As the story goes, the pressure builds to hand over Captain Jones. The Dutch harbor master shows the British a book of records. It contains all of the flags recognized under international maritime law. And to the British commander's surprise, there on one of its pages is Jones's unique blue-striped flag.
When they went through the book to look through flags, there it was. The British now had no claim of piracy.
The harbor master tells the British that the Dutch cannot arrest a man who is sailing under a legally recognized flag. The British have no choice but to respect maritime law. John Paul Jones and his crew are allowed to leave port, and they sail past the blockade and into the open ocean.
Jones continues the rest of the war to harass the English.
But one question remains. How did a never-before-seen flag make it into a Dutch harbor master's record books? As the story goes, Jones received help from an unlikely ally, the supposedly neutral Dutch.
The Dutch really weren't fond of the British and weren't really interested in handing over Jones. Behind the scenes, they're helping out the Americans in various ways. Jones worked with the Dutch to get them to help him out of this predicament.
Jones is said to have conspired with the Dutch harbor master. Under cover of darkness, the man secretly boarded Jones's ship and created a detailed sketch of the unique flag. Then he added the sketch to the official register of national flags, making Jones's flag appear legitimate.
That tricked the British, so when they looked through the flags, there it was, and the British now had no claim of piracy. Jones had outsmarted them again.
Today, this model of Jones's ship, the Bonhomme Richard, is on display at the U.S. Naval Academy Museum. It's a reminder of the crafty captain whose quick thinking was truly revolutionary. From a mythical monster to an accidental discovery, a cosmic crisis to an explosive plot.
I'm Don Wildman, and these are the mysteries at the museum.